Hi, everyone, and welcome to Manny's Paranormal, where I tell paranormal stories, actual real stories that happened to me. I'll be telling some that happened to relatives, my son, some other people. But anyway, this one tonight is about some stuff that happened to my wife and I. All kinds of ties together, but negative energy. I believe when you're feeling negative, when you have a lot of stress in your life, or you got a sick relative or whatever, sometimes that weakness attracts this negative shit. But anyway, my wife and I and my son, at the time, we live in a little town in Northern California, and my father-in-law had lung cancer. He had stage 4 lung cancer. It was pretty bad. And so there was a lot of stress in our lives. And I think right around that time, my son moved out for the first time. And that was also a little stress, man, losing the kid, moving out on his own. And he had some issues, and I'll tell that story too. I might tell it tonight. But anyway, so there's all this negativity. My wife, we own a small business, and it's just my wife and I. So she was spending a lot of time up with her mom and dad, and which, she's taking her dad to his chemo appointments and stuff. So I'm running a lot of this by myself. I'm doing the best that I can. My son's helping me as much as I can. He was training. He was training to be an MMA fighter at the time. He was fighting, and so he was gone a lot. He trained a couple times a day. He was working, so he had a lot going on. But he would help me. But anyway, so there's all this negativity going on, and my wife would be gone 3 days a week, and then she would come home. So she came home. She helped me at the shop. We got what we needed to get done. And it was just a rough time, you know what I mean? And that night, I remember my wife said, I'm going to bed. She went in the bedroom, went to sleep. So I stayed out and I watched TV for a little while. I had this big pit bull at the time named Barney, the biggest baby, lovable, he'd crawl on top of you, you know what I mean? And I just loved him. And we're sitting out there, and he's on, and I'm getting all comfortable. I was like, oh, I better go to bed. I'm getting sleepy. So I go in the bedroom, lay down on the bed, and I fall asleep. And I wake up in the middle of the night, and I see this. The TV's like flashing, like in that movie Poltergeist. And it's loud as hell, And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And I look over at my wife. She's messing with the TV. She ain't scared. She's fucking trying to shut this in, but the TV wouldn't shut off. And I go, what's going on? She goes, I don't know. I woke up and this thing's going. So I get up and we're fucking with it. It won't shut off. So I go. It was on this big like entertainment center thing that we have in our bedroom, and I reach around the back and I pull the fucking plug and shut it off. You know what I mean? I leave it off for a couple minutes. It shuts off, and then I plug it back in. The fucking cable, and I have a picture of this and I can't find it. But I took the cable box came on, the TV stayed off, and it said 666. I'm a Christian. That freaked me the fuck out. I'm like, man, I'll start praying and shit. I don't want nothing to do with that shit. So anyway, then we went back to bed, and I took a picture of that cable box. So then we moved about, I don't know, maybe 3 months later to a bigger place. And because I brought the cable box over, and when the guy came over, goes, oh, we don't use, they set up the new cable system. They had a new box, and I go, hey man, I said, do you ever see this before? And I show him the picture. It kind of freaked homeboy out. He looked at it. He goes, nah, dude, I've been working for this company for a long time. I've never seen that shit before, But anyway, I think there was some negative shit. And then unfortunately, my father-in-law died right around that time. Before we moved, actually. It's pretty traumatic events. And I might as well go into my son's story. So my son moves out. And he moves in. He moved to Davis, California, and not far from where we live. And so he was a fighter, and his buddy was a fighter, and there was a bunch of other fighters, and the kid that The house that they lived in belonged to this one kid, this fighter, his grandfather, and he was a pretty wealthy guy, owned a bunch of land and stuff, and this was just one of his properties. So he let his grandson move in there, and there was like it was like an old farmhouse, it was like 100-year-old farmhouse. It had like 6 bedrooms. This place was so old that when it was originally built, it didn't have electricity. So all of the electricity was conduit on the outsides of the walls. So anyway, my he's all excited. First time moving out of the house, you know what I mean? So I'm like, all right. He goes, Dad, you can help me move? And I had a truck, I have a truck for my business. And I'm like, yeah, I got you. So we set up a day and everything. We're going to go out there and move him in. So, and it's on a farm or like an orchard or a farm. I guess they grow corn and a bunch of shit. But you drive way back into this place, down this like dirt road. And then this house, when you pull up, there's these like trees, and this house is kind of nestled in there. It's fucking creepy. And we're driving up, and I'm like, dude, this is good luck here. So when you walked in the front door, there was the living room, the kitchen. I think there was a couple bedrooms downstairs, and then there was immediately a staircase, and there was like 3 or 4 bedrooms upstairs. And then these jackasses had a room all matted out so they could practice. I mean, it was, if you were a young, aspiring fighter, MMA, where you're doing, kickboxing, boxing, grappling, wrestling, and jiu-jitsu, this is the place to be, because they were all training at Team Alpha Male with Uriah Faber at the time. This is 10 years ago, maybe. But anyway, they had a lot of those guys from that gym, so it was pretty high. They were pretty high level. So anyway, my son's like, yeah, if you go up the stairs and over this way, there was one bedroom, kind of, you go up the stairs and throw a U, and that was his bedroom right there. So we walk in the door, and we're carrying this little couch thing he had, and I walk in the door, and I'm pretty sensitive to paranormal shit. I don't like it. I don't like paranormal shit, but it's always around me. I always have experiences, and it sucks, and it's not something I like, but I try to laugh it off. I try not to get too serious about it. But anyway, I walk in the door and I can feel it, dude. I can feel something. It's not cool. But I don't want to say anything to my son because, he's all excited. This is first place away from home and shit. He's feeling good. He's moving out. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to ruin it for him. So I'm like, all right, let's carry. So we're carrying up the stairs. And if we get top of the stairs, I don't know. I looked up and there was another stairway and it went up to this door up in the fucking attic. And I could just feel something in that attic. And I'm like, oh, fuck. So we move all his shit in, give him a hug. Good luck, son. You know what I mean? Motherfucker come by our house to eat all the time anyway. But, kids are. But anyway, so I give him a hug and I leave, right? I go home and I come in and she goes, well, my wife says, well, how did the house? I go, that's cool. It's a big farmhouse. It's back on this farm. You know what I mean? And I said, but it's got something going on. So she goes, well, you feel something? I said, when I walk through the door, I can walk into a place and tell you. And it's happened over and over and over. I have some other stories about that. I knew. I walked in. I go, there's something going on here. I don't want to be here. So anyway, I told my wife, I said, yeah, there's some shit going on in that house. So, I let it go at that. About a week later, about 10 o'clock at night. And apparently, so there were these, where my son lived, there was the kid that owned the house and his girlfriend. And then there were these 2 Hawaiian brothers that were fighters. And then there was another guy. There was like 4 other, one couple and 4 other, 2 brothers and these guys all renting places there, renting rooms there. Well, the Hawaiians went up back to visit their folks in Hawaii. The kid that grandfather owned the house, they went to Italy on some big family vacation for the rich grandfather. And this other dude was, I think he was still there, but he was out with his girlfriend or something. So my son was there by himself. So me and my wife are watching TV. We're old, kicking back watching TV. And phone rings. I pick up my phone. It's my kid. Hey, what's up? And he's like, hey, Dad. And he sounds serious. So I'm like, what's going on, buddy? And he goes, I'm calling you for some support and some advice. I'm like, all right, what's going on? He goes, I've had a couple of weird things happen. And he goes, this one I can't ignore. And I'm like, all right, what's going on? Now, you got to remember, there were two dogs that lived in the house. There was a bull terrier and a bulldog. And they were real friendly. Everybody patted them and loved on them, you know. And my son was especially fond of the bull terrier. Would come in his room and get up on his bed with him, and he watched TV with it. He kind of bonded with it a little bit. It was the kid whose grandfather owned that was his dog. But while they were on vacation, my son was taking care of these dogs for him. So he said he had his door closed. He was laying in bed. He didn't tell me about this. This happened the day before. And he heard this bang on his door. And he said it kind of startles him because he knew nobody was home, you know. So he said he got up, he went to the door, he opened it up, there was nobody there. And he thought, man, I wonder if that was one of the dogs. And he went downstairs into the living room, and the bulldog and the bull terrier were both on the couch asleep. It's like, fuck. I doubt if in the last couple minutes those dogs ran out and just fell asleep. So that kind of freaked him out, but he was kind of telling himself that, you know, it was probably the dog, you know. So he didn't call me that night. The next night, he heard something. I don't know if he heard a bang. I have to talk to him and find out. I want to do a collaboration with him. But he heard something. And he said he opened his door and he looked. And from where you were standing by his door, you could see the front door. And the fucking front door was open. It's like, what the hell? So he said he goes down the stairs. And as he goes down the stairs, he realized he could see in the living room windows open. And through the kitchen, there's a door that goes outside. That door was open. There was a back door, and that door was open. And my son's like kind of freaking out. You know what I mean? He's like, what the fuck's going on here? You know, there's nobody there but him. So he said he goes around, he closes and locks all the windows, and that's when he calls me. And I'm like, damn, man. And he goes, I'm not feeling too good about being here. I go, well, what do you want to do? He goes, can I borrow a gun? So I gave him a shotgun. So I don't know what that's going to do against, you know, Casper or whatever, but made him feel better. So I let him borrow this shotgun, and he took it back with him, and he just continued. So it was weird because the girl was also a fighter. That was the kid whose grandfather owned the house. His girlfriend was a fighter. I used to train her. I'm a kickboxing instructor, and I would train my son. So those two split up. So that guy got depressed and he moved out. Then the Hawaiians moved back to Hawaii. And then the other people. So now my son is there by himself all the time. And they were willing to still rent him the room. But homeboy was like, you know what? Fuck that. He moved back in with us. We had moved. We got a bigger place anyway. So he had a place to come. But he moved out of there. He was like, fuck that shit. Anyway, that's the story. It was kind of funny. I used to laugh, just giggle about it. Homeboy calls me up. I'm calling for some advice and some support. Anyway. All right, everybody, have a great night. If you like these kind of stories, just kind of off the cuff, true stories, maybe give me a like and subscribe. That would help me a lot. Anyway, everybody, have a great night. Appreciate you all.